If you've been through one of those AI rollouts where the company hands everyone a login, books a training session, and calls it done, and you came out the other side quietly wondering why nothing actually feels different, this memo is for you. You did everything the rollout asked. You got the seat, you sat through the course, and your week is exactly as full as it was the month before. That's the line. Every rollout deck makes the same promise. Learn the tool. Get hours back in your week. The work gets faster. Billions of dollars are riding on that one sentence. So I actually did the thing. I genuinely learned to use it well. Fast at drafting, fast at the back and forth, fast at all of it. Then I opened my calendar on Monday morning, and the thing eating my week wasn't the drafting. It was the 4 people who still had to approve the draft, in the same order, in the same meetings, the way they always had. I'd gotten faster at the one part that was already fast. Writing was never the slow part. The certificate was on the wall, and my week hadn't moved an inch, and both of those were true at once. And honestly, that should have bothered the people who paid for the rollout more than it bothered me. So I went looking for why the training keeps working while the week looks identical, and why nobody in the rollout meeting says that part out loud. 4 things I want you to take from this. The login that looked like the rollout, the course that was supposed to fix it, the same slow machine, and the one thing that actually moves the work. First, what handing out the logins actually bought you? In one survey of 15,000 workers, almost everyone, 88%, was using AI at work. Only 5% were using it in a way that actually changed how they work. Same tool, same access, wildly different results. I know that gap is real because I lived the small side of it. I had the license for months and used it like a slightly faster search box. Typed a question, copied the answer, moved on. You've probably got one sitting in a browser tab too. And if you're honest about what you do with it, it's mostly the search box thing. The people next to me had the same login, doing the same nothing. But a handful of people weren't. Give a whole company the same tool, and the heaviest users send roughly 6 times more messages than the typical person, up to 17 times more if they're writing code. Even people who pay for the premium version and open it every month, nearly 1 in 5 has never once tried the data analysis feature. They're paying for the whole Swiss Army knife and using the one small blade. Here's the part nobody sees. You buy 200 seats. 40 people touch it past the first week. The gap between having access and using it well is the entire game, and it never shows up on the invoice. If I were you, before anyone asks for more budget, count how many of your seats actually get used past week 1. That number is the rollout. The invoice just told you what you spent. Then, what every company reaches for when the logins don't stick. When leaders were asked what's blocking AI, the number one answer was, our people don't have the skills. And the number one thing they did about it was run a training course, not change the work. Skills gap, run a course. It's almost reflexive. And I wanted the course. I sat down for it genuinely thinking this was the missing piece, the thing that finally makes it click. If you've ever opened a training invite and felt closer to hope than dread, that was me. The course isn't a straw man, it's the obvious next move. But the people are not the holdouts. That's the part the whole conversation gets backwards. Nearly half of employees say they want more training. More than a fifth say they've gotten basically none. Only about 12% say they've had enough to actually get the productivity out of it. The workers are standing there asking for help. The org is the one dragging its feet. Here's what it costs you. Once the course runs, the org checks the box marked Skills Gap, closed, and stops looking. The training quietly becomes the answer instead of day 1, and you're still in the unchanged week, wondering what everyone else got that you missed. So treat the course as day 1, not the finish line. The week after, ask what's actually changed about the work itself, not about how well people can drive the tool. Then, why the course works, and the week looks identical. Here's the honest version nobody says in the rollout meeting. You can't train your way out of this. People learn the tool, then get sent right back into the same slow meetings and approval chains that made the work slow in the first place. This is the part I lived. I came out of the training genuinely better at the tool. That part was real. Then Monday came. The same 4 approval meetings, the same sign-off chain, the same one person who has to review it before anything ships. I'd gotten faster at writing, and writing was never the slow part. The slow part was the machine around the writing, and a course doesn't touch the machine. Point at the slowest step in your own week. I'll bet it isn't the typing. It's the waiting, for the meeting, for the approval, for the sign-off. And you already know a course doesn't move any of those. There's a number waved around to argue the opposite. Workers who did 80+ hours of training a year reported saving about 14 hours a week, nearly double the typical worker. Sounds like proof, but the people who volunteer for 80 hours of AI training are almost certainly the power users anyway. That's not the course causing the gain, it's just who they already were. And here's the quiet cost. The training works, the satisfaction survey looks fine, nothing moves, so the conclusion that settles over your building becomes AI is overhyped, when the real problem was never the tool, and it was never your skill. You end up eating the blame for a machine nobody redesigned. If I were you, point at the single slowest step in your actual workflow and ask whether a training course touches it. Almost always, it doesn't. And that's exactly where the real work is, and what it looks like when something actually changes. Let me line up two companies that ran the same technology in opposite directions. At Moderna, the goal was every single employee using AI within 6 months, and they hit it with real in-person training, peer coaching, and people building their own little tools. Within 2 months, employees had built more than 700 custom versions themselves. They didn't hand out logins and walk away. They ran it as a change project. And I'll flag it. That's the company's own telling, so read it as what a change project looks like, not audited proof it paid off. Run it the other direction, and you get Klarna. They replaced the equivalent of 700 customer service agents with a bot and cut their headcount from around 7,400 people to 3,000. Then the CEO admitted, on the record, that cost had become too predominant a factor. The quality dropped on the hard cases, and they started rehiring humans. You can look it up. They went hunting for savings and discovered, expensively, exactly where human judgment had been holding the whole thing up. One company asked, what should the work be now that the tool can do this, and rebuilt around the answer. The other asked, how many people can we cut, and found out the hard way. The lever in both directions was the same, not whether the tool showed up, but whether the work changed. Look at your own rollout and ask which question it's actually answering. If it's the second one, or worse, neither, you already know which story you're in. Keep treating it as a license and you get dead seats at best, a Klarna-style quality collapse at worst. Either way, the work never gets rethought, and you're the one explaining next quarter why the AI didn't work. What I want you to take from this, stop asking, did people learn the tool? And start asking, what did we redesign because of it? If the honest answer is nothing, the course was theater. So here's the whole memo, backwards. The companies that win redesign the work, not just the worker. Moderna built a change project. Everyone else bought a software license. The course works, and your week looks identical because the slow part was never the tool. It was the meetings and approvals around it, and a course doesn't touch those. The training was day one, not the finish line. The org that stops there congratulates itself for closing a gap it never closed, and the login was the cheap part. Access was never adoption. The invoice just made it look like it was. So if I were you, here's the move. More training isn't the fix. Redesigning the work is. A course can teach you the tool. It can't unbook your calendar. That's the memo. Read.